Hello everyone, here's a quick video showing some Maya tips and stuff. Modeling focused. Number one, the context menu. This guy you should learn inside and out. It's very powerful. So let me make a cube just to start off something simple. Now to go to vertex mode, you right click and drag, right? Or edge mode. The thing is, you don't have to wait for the menu to pop up and then make your choice. You can just do that. So I'm doing this really fast, right clicking and dragging. So I want to go, I'm in edge mode, want to go to vertex mode and just do that. Face mode, start. Takes a little bit of training, but it's pretty quick to get used to. You can even go into the sub context menus. Something I use fairly frequently would be control edge ring to edge ring collapse. Now this is down left, up left, but you don't have to wait for that. You can just go like that. Sometimes I do miss, but mostly not. So yeah, that's number one, context menus. It applies to everything. So practice it as much as you can. It makes modeling more fun. It makes you feel like a little bit of a ninja. So yeah, try it out. Point number 1B. Again, context menus. If you hold down W and left click, or E or R and left click, so move, scale and rotate, it brings up its own context menu, which I use all the time for symmetry, which where you want to move stuff, whether it be move, rotate or scales, world space or object space or component space. Very, very useful. For example, I want to extrude this along the normal, but if you hold down shift to extrude, by the way, it's not quite right. If you do normal extrusion, let me turn symmetry off. See, again, just symmetries over there. So if I hold down W and do this really quickly, you can see up there I'm turning symmetry on and off, just like that. Component mode. Now it's oriented towards the normal if I want to extrude, so that's where you'd use that. Same with scaling. See, now it'll scale correctly. So that is something I find very useful and I use all the time. Point number 2, know your shortcuts, the default ones first. Let's make a cube. Control Shift X. This is a default one, a standard in Maya, which is the multi-cut tool, something we use all the time. It's got its own shortcuts, like control would place an edge loop. Control middle click would place an edge loop exactly in the center between adjacent edge loops, like so. Control Shift, and you can go in increments of I believe 10%. And right click would terminate a line, so if you draw, right click terminate. Next shortcut, let me make a sphere. Make it live. Control, actually I use Control Shift Q is quad draw. Something used pretty often. Or just the context menu, but I can never reach that accurately. Only ones in the radius, nothing in the drop down menu. So Control Shift Q, fairly important one. Another shortcut which I use all the time, but you have to be careful with this one, is Shift Alt D, which is deleting the history. Because in Maya it's a good idea to constantly get rid of that because it slows stuff down and creates possible errors and glitches. So Z is undo, not Control Z. Actually, you only have to press Z in Maya to undo. So just pressing Z. Let me redo all that. So Control Alt D. Now the problem with using that shortcut is if you do that on a skinned mesh, you lose the history of the skinning. So be careful with that one. If this was a low poly model, you probably want to soften those normals again. Soften edge, but you don't have. You can just go like that, or harden them. It's beautiful, really. More shortcuts. These ones are four of my own actually. Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, and Alt 4. I've assigned to UV editing duties because as a modeler, we do this all the time, right? I don't use any of the 3D tools like this. I don't use that at all. I find it a bit clunky. I prefer my method, or this method at least. Normally I'd have a UV editor open on my second screen, but I can't record that. Right, so we have our model. Alt 2, while I'm in normal model mode, will sew all the edges together. This is what I generally do if I have UVs. If I have no UVs, it'll just do nothing. So I generally just create any UVs really. I don't really care. And I Alt 2. This is how I normally start. And with a 90-degree angle, you probably want to cut along there. So double clicking. Let me just turn off this heat map so I can't see what I'm doing. So an automatic UV unwrap would have sufficed for this guy, but I'm just going to do it manually to demonstrate. So Alt 1 cuts UVs, Alt 2 sews. It doesn't move and cut, it just... I mean, you could use this, cut, sew, but I do like having the shortcuts. And unfold again is just unfold, but you can just do it like, let me undo that like this, bam, unfold. Alt 2, sew it all together, unfold, layout. Layout UVs. Again, that's just a quick wrist action. That sounds dubious. It's a flick action. Alt 1, Alt 2, sew them all together, unfold, layout. Let me just undo that and get my normal shells back. Alt 3 would be orient the shell, which is used all the time in hard surface modeling. Alt 4 would be rotate 90 degrees, which is also used all the time. So Alt 1, 2, 3, 4 is I find very useful. It's my own. I don't have that many personal shortcuts because most stuff in Maya is already available in this wonderful context marking menus. I think that's what they're called, marking menus. I think. Anyway, another thing we constantly do is delete stuff in Maya. So I've assigned delete to Alt and the tilde key, which is that little button next to the left of the 1 key under escape. Because Alt tilde is normally used for something I've never ever used, so I overrode the default shortcut. So that's my delete. Instead of my left hand constantly going to the delete button on the other side of the keyboard, I just hate doing that. Can't describe in words how much I dislike that. So Alt tilde is just so much comfier, just deleting stuff, and that applies to component level stuff as well. And anything, it's just general delete. Another one is Control tilde, which is another custom hotkey which overrides something else I never ever use, and that is remove edge and vertex, not just the edge loop. as in delete, because that'll leave a little vertex, right? It is delete edge loop and vertexes, like that. Something we do all the time, right? And I don't know if there's there might be context for it actually. Delete edge, as far as I'm aware, is not the same, because this will leave. Holy moly, it is the same. I've just that's been updated then, or I'm an idiot. I just do that. Because I've literally just discovered, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm an idiot, is that delete now does delete. It doesn't leave a vertex behind, whereas if you just press the delete button, see, it leaves undesired vertexes. So this delete edge, shift right click, does the job. So it makes my hotkey semi-redundant, although it's a little bit quicker. I should actually time this. Is this quicker or is this? Nah, the marker menu wins. Look at that. It's at least a millionth of a second faster. And if you add them up for your lifetime, that'll be about maybe a second you save. So I recommend that, using this guy instead of my Control tilde hotkey. Alright, onwards. What's next? This is another default one, Control 1, which is, if this didn't exist, I would have cried in a corner somewhere. It's isolate select. Control 1 is one of the default keys. So if you're working on a complex model, by the way, I'm holding shift to duplicate these guys because I've got smart duplicate on. Hold W down, left click, smart duplicate. You just hold shift and you can copy stuff. Can you copy lots of stuff at once, I wonder? You can. Hurrah. So if you have lots of stuff and it's like, I don't want to go in here and Control H, which is hide, by the way, and Shift H. I just want to work on one thing without having to hide stuff, so Control 1. I think it's up here somewhere as well, but who wants to click a button if you can have a hotkey? Well, I mean, click a button with a mouse cursor instead of with your fingers, which is quicker. Control 1. Absolutely essential. It's, if I close the UV editor, you can even isolate component level stuff and just work on that undistracted by things around it. Point number, I can't remember. The next point is the mirror function, which I don't know if many people use it. I have no idea. I know at my day job where I work, people, I don't think my friends in work use it, but anyway, mirror. You can either use it by this context menu, but I use it so often, I've set up 6 shortcuts. Mirror in the X positive, X negative, and the same for Y and Z. And you can really quickly come up with interesting new shapes with whatever you're working on. I usually use it with hard surface, non-organic stuff. So this guy isn't zeroed out. He's not in the center of the world, doesn't really matter, so I want to mirror in the -X. You get this lovely context menu and this manipulator, and cut geometry is on, which means it'll beautifully merge like that. It's just a fantastic tool. And of course over here you can adjust, you know, the offset, same as using the manipulator, the axis and so on, but I prefer having these guys ready. And world would be, it's just a beautiful tool. So let's just screw around and see what we can come up with. Mirror and Y bounding. let's mirror this in Z. Why not? I'm not Zetist. I'm not anti-Z. It's so satisfying to use as well. I've wasted 1 billion hours of work just playing with a mirror tool. I really hope my boss doesn't hear this. I was just joking, I've never done that at work. I never waste time. Okay, there we go. A little hole there, because holes are cool. Well, let's make a copy of it, flatten it. Alt B, by the way, changes the background. Usually it cycles between 4 different ones, but it doesn't now just because I'm making a video, probably. Now let's mirror, let's combine all of these guys. Let me just turn off smoothing for now, so it's a bit faster, and ambient occlusion. Let's do another X positive. No, bounding. Ooh. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be the other side. So surprise, surprise. Of course, it's bounding. That's bound to happen. Ha ha ha! I'm sorry. It's a fairly pleasing shape, but not. I'd give it a 7.1 out of 10 in pleasantness of shapeness. Maybe 7.2. You can be the judge. Let the viewer decide. Who am I to decide? Let me press 1 again. It's getting real slow. Now, bounding. Always bounding. There we go. Here we go. The most complex shape known to man. I'm sure you get the picture. In fact, I think you can even combine stuff. Let me assign Stingray PBS. Bevel, again, it's just, whoops, you click on the object, shift, right click, bevel edge. Let me undo that. Bevel, and then if you hold control and middle click, you can adjust the fraction. I don't know why it's called fraction. Why isn't it called thickness? Bevel thickness. Who knows? Combine this dude. I should probably turn Control Tilde into combine now that I don't need delete edge loop and vertex anymore, because I combine stuff all the time. Let's see, in the Z-axis. This grid is irritating me. I'm beginning to severely dislike this shape, actually. It's pointless, but it's just for demonstration purposes. It's thinking, it's bounding boxing. Let me go back to 1 because it's real slow. Isn't that just magical? Very, very cool. And it usually merges the vertices pretty perfectly. You do get the occasional screw up, but it's quite rare. And maybe I'm just lucky. Yes, do it anyway. Okay. The next point is I think this is actually the marker menu, custom marker menu stuff. So I'm making a cube. Let me move it off the world center. Do some random stuff. just to give it some history. Okay, that's enough. Turn symmetry off. So Shift Alt D, get rid of the history. This is my custom marker menu. It's a work in progress, but it's stuff I use all the time. I don't have hotkeys for, and it's too slow for me personally to reach them via the marking menu, these kind of menus. I mean, if bridge is there, it's somewhere there. It's too far. It's just, you know, I want to save time, so it's just like that. Well, let me make a copy of this first. Actually, let me just mirror it. Well, bam. So let me bring them. Okay, so if I want to bridge these two, let me turn symmetry off. These two faces, and just go bam. So again, this is what I did. Because it's different marking menus in each quadrant. Not really a quadrant, but you know what I mean. So for me, you hold down space, left click, bridge. It's really, really quick. Or just like that. Great way to make curvy things, like turn it to blend, many divisions, and it does this. Very, very cool. Also, once I have, you always want to center to the pivot, right? And as far as I'm aware, it's weirdly not in this menu. Maybe it's in the Control Shift menu, or Control. No, so I made my own. I've got it up there as well, but it's too far. Look, the mouse has to go all the way from here to there. And on my 32-inch monitor, or even at the works 22-inch monitor, it's just too much. I can't deal with it. So there, center pivot. Again, a very quick flick action. Admittedly, this one I often get wrong, and then I curse a little bit, but that's only because I'm inept, not because it doesn't work. Center pivot. Same with freeze transformations. Bam, just like that. What else is in there? Target weld I use all the time, like target weld mode. Because as far as I'm aware, it's, I mean, you could use the modeling toolkit, but I don't want to. I don't want to go from here to there. I just want to go like this instantly. What else is there? Man, that's terrible. Non-deformer history. This is great if this deletes all history in the scene except skinning history, so it won't screw up animations. However, it does delete what do you call it? Dynamic simulations, caches and so on, which is not great. So if you're working in a scene with cloth simulations and so on, don't delete all. Don't ever do delete all by type anything of this. Just don't. Choose exactly what you want to get, where you want to delete the history, and do it for that object only. As I found out the very hard way. A very, very hard lesson learned. And of course the UV editor I use all the time. Normally it opens on my second screen, but yeah, I use, because I don't want to go in there and or up there with a just open. Same with the graph editor, which I use all the time in animation, of course, just like this. Of course, you can put in these marking menus, you can put whatever you like, but so far this is what I find really handy. I never feel like something I use often is out of reach with all these shortcuts and hotkeys, modeling wise at least. There's plenty of room for improvement, but some people might not know how to set up your own hotkeys or marking menus. Go to Windows, hotkey editor. Takes a bit of a while. So it'll be the default. And this is another cool thing. If you've got, you can have hotkey sets depending on what you're working on, but I haven't felt the need to make a separate set yet. So let's say you want to make a hotkey for delete. That'll probably be an edit, like general delete. Yeah, just click what you wanna and just type it in. The cool thing is it'll show, if I'm holding down Alt or Control, it'll show what's available. Green's Control, Q, E, R, etc. is already being used, but not 2, 3, 4. There's plenty of room for me to make hotkeys there for bridging and so on. Anyway, yeah, just type, make your hotkey. Or if you wanna do the UV editor stuff, there we go. Very easy. Let's save it and close. The marking menus is where is it? There it is. This is a little bit, it's not complicated, but it's a little bit clunky. So first you need, as far as I'm aware, someone scream at me if I'm wrong, you have to have the item either in a menu or on the shelf. Actually, it has to be in the shelf. And in order to get stuff in the shelf, let me close that first. So I've got my custom shelf. Let's say I want conform. Hold on, Control Shift, left click, and it'll appear. Anything in Maya you can have appear up here. It's very useful. Delete. So once it's up there, if you open the marking menu editor, you create a new one. Then you choose, where and which region. If you hold down space and left click, like so, where will it appear, and which mouse click will make it appear. Then you can edit the menu. So this is where you drag stuff from there. You just, I think, middle mouse drag. And then you can test it. Use left mouse button. There we go. So yeah, that's how you edit the marking menu. One thing that nobody uses. I saw this by, I think, Andrew Hodgson, Great modeler with lots of great tips on his ArtStation blog and so on. There's the content browser, which you can find in general editors, content browser. But I made a little shortcut. Generally, this is open on my second screen as usual. Let me just close the UV toolkit. And this is fantastic if you have parts, like mech parts or whatever, even animations, and you can store them in a folder wherever you want. So I made my own folder of parts. I favorited it. Speak, goddammit. Mechanical, for example. And I've got all these prefabs, so to speak. And I want to use this box. Just drag it in. There you go. What a box. This piston. And so on. Because I generally cull these from previous works, or the rig hasn't transferred. Normally it would. Get rid of that. So this is a fantastic way to organize your stuff. And to get the screenshot, I generally make it black. Alt B, go to black. So I want to save this in my library, right? So I go to File, Export Selection. Scroll all the way down, Capture Thumbnail Play Blast. Now unselect it. Let me close the content browser. There we go. You can have it lit or whatever you want. Capture. Bam. Save. And just go to the folder where you want it. Mine's favorite there. mechanical, and name it. And it should appear, not that I've saved it now, but it should appear here in your content browser. You can also adjust how large things I like large display. You can even have animation previews. If I just hover the mouse and try, I'm like, I could use this in the scene, and you just drag it in and so on. So very, very underused, I think, thing. You can, I'm not sure if it's only FBX. I doubt. No, it's not. It can be dynamic stuff, anything really that can go into Maya. You can store in here and drag. This reminds me, I got to work on this guy. Or work further on this spaceship. Right, this is the real ultra mega goodbye. Thank you for watching, and have a really good day. See ya.